Okay, I think we have everybody in a seat. Please be seated. Candidates, faculty, staff, family, and friends, welcome to the August 2023 Miami University Doctoral Hooding Ceremony and Graduation. My name is Michael Crowder, and I'm Dean of the Graduate School. This is indeed a special day, and we're pleased to have many of our doctoral graduates and their families and friends with us here on our beautiful campus. We're also pleased that many others are joining us via live stream so that this special day can be shared by family and friends who could not join us here today. Because of the nature of the accomplishments of the people in this room, we are proud to offer a separate ceremony each year for our doctoral graduates. The doctoral degree is the highest academic degree offered, and this group of soon-to-be alumni deserve this special recognition. Let me introduce our platform party. Joining me today is President Gregory Crawford, 22nd President of Miami University, Dr. Renata Crawford, Miami University's Ambassador and Adjunct Professor of Physics. That's right, you can clap. Dr. Elizabeth Mullinex, Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs. Dr. Jason Lane, Dean, College of Education, Health, and Society. Dr. Chris Makaroff, Dean, College of Arts and Sciences. And Dr. Meena Subramaniam, Vice President and Global Program Leader in the Oncology Research and Development Unit at Takeda Pharmaceuticals, and this year's alumni speaker. In addition to the platform party, we're being assisted today by Dr. Amity Noltemeyer, Associate Dean of the Grad School, Dr. Elise Redina, Associate Dean in the Graduate School, Megan Davidson, Assistant to the Dean and Manager of Graduate Student Services, and Anna Abbey, Graduate Assistant. It is now my pleasure to introduce the 22nd President of Miami University, Dr. Gregory Crawford.
Well, thank you, Michael. First and foremost, I'd love, if you're able, to have our graduates today stand. Can we give them all a big round of applause? Congratulations. You may be seated. Next time you stand, you're going to get your degree. And also now, I really would love to thank the family and friends of all these graduates and the extraordinary mentors in our faculty. So let's give them a big round of applause for a job well done. And on ceremonies like this, it's kind of hard not to reminisce back to your own time as a graduate student. And I know there's lots of ups and downs. There's exhilaration, and there's also the times of nervousness and concern and worries that you go through over your years as a doctoral student. And I remember myself just how excited I was to get accepted to graduate school. And I had a few months of, like thinking how wonderful it was going to be. Then I get there, and there was all these smart people. And I got all worried. So I went from a high to a low. And then jumped into the classwork, and that very first sort of course you took, that very first graduate test, you didn't know if you could do it, and then you passed, and you felt great once again. And then off you were going, and shortly thereafter, a year or so, you were doing your comprehensive exams and getting ready for that. That was a stress factor, right? You were sitting there thinking about, how am I going to get through these comprehensive exams? They're all different for different departments. But they're all nerve-wracking for sure. And then getting through that, and it's probably about the halfway point, you're like, wow, I can really do this. I get it. And then you get charged with your project and your idea from your mentor and your role model, and kind of off you go. And then there's highs and lows, right? You learned how to pivot from failure because the question or problem you were trying to solve, you had to change direction and figure out a new way of thinking about it. But you kind of got there. And then there was that big exhilaration once again when you had your first paper or perhaps your first presentation at a conference, which is really exciting. My first presentation didn't go very well. I was there, and it was a 10-minute talk at the American Physical Society. And I talk fast anyway, but I really spoke fast when I was 23 years old. And I got done in 4 minutes. And I was the first speaker, and the chairperson said, well, we should take a break after 4 minutes. And I really remember that, and my advisor helped me slow down in the future. And then that first paper, that first publication, whatever it may be that you published, it was so exciting. And then as you went on and you got closer to the end, there was that moment, and we all remember it. And certainly as an advisor of PhD students myself, I remember it, where you're sitting in the room with your student, and they're no longer your student, they're your colleague. Because all of a sudden, you now know as much or more than your advisor about this problem. And I remember my advisor saying, well, it's probably time for you to graduate. And I was excited to hear that, but I was kind of afraid to leave. And so it was that moment, and I remembered them every time I graduated a PhD student, that particular moment where I knew they were off and they were ready to go. And then there was that total exhilaration after getting through that final presentation, your final pitch to the colleagues of the department, and just being awarded your PhD. So if I was going to leave you with a few sort of key things of advice, I love to run and exercise and ride bikes, and so I put everything in terms of those sort of categories. But Renata and I, we do a lot of trail running. And you're out there running in the beautiful trails of Oxford, and you're jumping over stumps and running across the rivers, and you see all the big obstacles. Those are easy to see. But then all of a sudden, this little tiny root, boom, face down, you fall over. So the lesson learned there is that really be on the lookout for the details of what you do. Some of you are going to be headed off after postdocs to faculty jobs. Some of you are going right into faculty jobs, and you'll get that first review back on your proposal. Maybe you'll get it, but it could be a small detail and say declined. But hang in there because you'll get it right. So pay attention to detail. And then we run and run and run, and we had this sort of path we chose, 6-mile run in the woods. And after a year or two, we decided to run it backwards, and we got lost. And so the weirdest thing about that is that when you're off there in your careers and you're racing ahead to the next thing, don't forget to stop sometimes and just reflect where you've been, where you're going, and also celebrate those accomplishments. Because in these fast-paced careers of today, you can just overlook it and just keep running fast forward, and then all of a sudden, it's time to retire. So take that all in. And finally, I kind of had the opportunity to ride my bicycle across the country several times. And everybody would ask, how do you get in shape for that? And quite frankly, you try, but you never can. You start, you have the courage to start, and then you just have the confidence to get in shape along the way. So whatever your career direction is, if you're going to industry, you're going to teach, you're going to be an administrator, you're going to be a faculty member, whatever it may be, just remember to have that courage that you may not have all the skills, but jump in head first, and you have the confidence with your Miami degree to get it all done. So congratulations to everybody. You are all phenomenal, and now it's time for you to go out there and be awesome. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our provost, Liz Molinax, who's also a professor of theater.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, President Crawford. As President Crawford mentioned, these ceremonies are nostalgic for those of us who loved graduate school, and it's really fun, likewise, to think about that. This hooding ceremony is a really special occasion for me because it reminds me of that really important time in my life. I made lifelong friends. I discovered my passion for research. I met my husband, and I had my first child. In fact, for my hooding ceremony, I was 9 months pregnant and thus gave birth to a dissertation and to my son, Tom, which was a very momentous occasion indeed. it was funny too, because my mentor was extremely nervous in my defense that I would go into labor, so he really sped that up. So that was good. But it was graduate school was a really important time for me, not just personally as major life events ensued, but professionally, because in my doctoral program I began to understand myself in a new way, as an intellectual and as a creator of new knowledge, right? Not just as a student whose work I not just a student of those whose work I studied, but I became invested in a sense of myself as a scholar and as a teacher, and began to build the foundation for my career in academia. I hope that you also, graduates, have discovered a passion for your discipline, and its landscape of knowledge, and are eager to apply this knowledge in your next season of life. I also hope that you made good friends here, friends that will now become your professional colleagues. My friends from graduate school are the ones who ended up writing my letters of recommendation, collaborating with me on essays and publications and projects within our professional organization. So these are not just friends, but future colleagues. These relationships, like those you have with your colleagues and your faculty mentors, are alliances that I hope will prove significant for the rest of your lives. I'd like to share a few words now about this ceremony. In a typical hooding ceremony, your faculty mentor places your doctoral hood on your shoulders, formally welcoming you to the academy, as they were welcomed by their mentors, and as their mentors were welcomed throughout the ages. The hood signifies that you are now an academic peer, a colleague. This ceremony celebrates not just your membership within an intellectual community, but your remarkable accomplishment. And I say remarkable because you completed a doctoral degree, demonstrating the highest level of graduate student scholarship and determination. Only 1.7% of adults in the U.S. have a doctoral degree. This major achievement, of course, did not happen in a vacuum. Dedicated faculty members and loved ones invested in you and supported you, and I know that you will honor their commitment by your career, their commitment to your career by, in turn, investing in your own students and colleagues. Today, you officially receive a new and permanent title, Doctor. The linguistic root of doctor is the Latin word for docere, which means to teach. This is both your permanent title and a reminder of your lifelong mandate, however you choose to interpret it. Every time someone calls you doctor, I hope you remember your obligation to keep disciplinary knowledge alive and to ensue it is transmitted to future generations. To lift up those around you, to be an agent of change and justice, to make a difference. For centuries, that has been our sacred mission as members of the Academy, and it is now yours also. Congratulations. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Renata Crawford, Miami University Ambassador and Adjunct Professor of Physics.
Thanks, Liz. Congratulations, graduates. This is a day full of pride for you, your family, your friends, and for us. You added to the knowledge and scholarship at Miami and thereby left your legacy. We wish you well in your new adventures. And come back and visit us. You know where we live. It is now my pleasure to introduce a distinguished Miami University Graduate School alumna and today's guest speaker, Dr. Meena Subramaniam. Dr. Subramaniam is Vice President and Global Program Leader in the Oncology Research and Development Unit at Takeda Pharmaceuticals in Cambridge, Massachusetts. In this capacity, Dr. Subramaniam oversees the strategic development of a variety of therapeutic assets that are designed to enhance the capacity of the immune system to fight cancers. As the head of cross-functional drug development teams, she is responsible for advancing the asset through clinical development for regulatory approval and commercialization in multiple tumor indicators. Previously, Dr. Subramaniam was vice president at Biogen in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the Global Biomarker Discovery and Development Division, and head of the Translational Sciences and Technology Group. While at Biogen, she contributed to the development and approval of products to treat multiple sclerosis, spinal muscular atrophy, among others. Dr. Subramaniam has served as president and chair of the Board of Women in Enterprise of Science and Technology, also known as WEST, and as chair of the National Biotechnology Conference sponsored by the American Association of Pharmaceutical Scientists. She has won several leadership awards, including the Luminary Award from the Healthcare Business Women's Association and the Global Leader Award from AAPS. Dr. Subramaniam currently serves as an observer on the board of Portal Instruments Incorporated and as a member on the board of several not-for-profit organizations. She received her PhD in microbiology from Miami University and has authored many scientific publications and is named inventor on several patents. We are delighted to have such an impressive leader and alumna to join us today. Please help me welcome Dr. Meena Subramaniam.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford, for the gracious introduction and the warm welcome and hospitality. I'd also like to thank Professor Michael Crowder for inviting me to deliver the alumni address to the 2023 graduating class of doctoral students. Thank you for the honor and privilege. Graduates, congratulations to each of you on reaching this incredible milestone in your academic journey. This is your day. You have worked hard to achieve this distinction. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Let us celebrate your industriousness, your perseverance, and dedication. As you move forward from this moment, think about the motivation that fueled this academic journey, as well as experiences that you will cherish most about Miami, experiences that are unique to you and that will define your identity. In my alumni address to you today, I wish to share 4 tips that I have learned working in the pharmaceutical industry for the last 30 years. I hope you find these tips as useful as I have for my own personal development and growth as a leader and mentor. The first pointer and the most critical pointer that I wish to share with you is about being bold and fearless. As you dive into a very bright yet unpredictable future, do not feel obligated to choose something that appears familiar or even safe. Instead, I challenge you to look at positions that will force you to learn and grow and prepare you for that next big move in your career. When I graduated from Miami with my PhD 30 years ago, I had 2 interesting options. The first was to take a job in Procter & Gamble in Mason, Ohio, in their home care business as a microbiologist, or accept a postdoctoral fellowship at the Tufts University School of Medicine in Boston in a research area that I was very curious about and interested in. It was right at the intersection of science and medicine. However, I knew that it will be extremely challenging because it is not an area of research that I pursued for my PhD. After much deliberation and consideration, I decided to accept the position in Boston. And as expected, when I got to the lab, I was totally overwhelmed. Talk about the imposter syndrome. Despite my strong academic credentials from Miami, I was so overwhelmed with all those graduate students who were there from academic institutions all over the globe, but also from all these Ivy League schools around the US. And what more, these students seem to have their own cliques and networks because many of them had worked in research areas that was adjacent to what they were pursuing for their postdoctoral fellowship. So it took me a while to find my stride and comfort and really stop irrational fear from overwhelming me and emotionally handicapping me. However, I did find that courage, and in due course, I started building a network with the graduate students and the postdoctoral fellows in the laboratory very purposefully. And I became resourceful to leverage them to address gaps in my knowledge and training. So, this sort of throwing yourself and learning to overcome fear, and also building confidence in your own capabilities and training, and most importantly, knowing how to build your professional network with individuals whom you can always reach out to and ask for support. These are traits that have helped me build my career beyond my imagination, starting off as a research bench scientist to where I am today, leading multifunctional teams in a global pharmaceutical company. So, key traits: be bold, be fearless. The second pointer that I wish to share with you is to never lose the mindset of a student. Be a lifelong learner. When you think about future opportunities, it's always easy to think about a job that has a fancy title and a higher pay. But that's a short-term goal. You always have to think about what next for me in my career. So an example from my own life is a pivot that I made early in my career. I was managing a research group as a director in a pharmaceutical company. I was held as a very valued employee in that organization. Despite that, I was just not happy to get up and go to work every day. I did not feel challenged. So I decided to make a move. So I left a high-paying job and a management position to start back out in the bench. I joined a small biotech company, but I learned something different and new. That was a time when there was a revolution around monoclonal antibody technologies, and I really wanted to understand, because most of my research work had always been in the preclinical space. So I wanted to understand, how do you translate preclinical findings into medicines to help patients? This sort of a curiosity mindset and learning mindset continues to stay with me, and I feel that maintaining this mindset of learn, adapt, and grow is an imperative in today's world. Look at all the rapid advances that are being made in science and technology. We were just talking about the revolution in ChatGPT and AI, all the changes that are happening in data analytics. Talk about CRISPR technologies that are really changing the lives of children and adults with genetically defined disorders. And what about the COVID pandemic, eh? The launch of vaccines, mRNA-based vaccines that had never been done before, using lipid nanoparticle delivery technologies. All of this happened because there were scientists who remained curious and continued to learn and adapt and implement. And so I feel that if you maintain that mindset of a student, you will see your career being taken in very interesting paths. It may not always be linear. So as I moved from being a microbiologist, a hardcore microbiologist, to now a drug development scientist, but not just a drug development scientist, but I've been through neurology, gastroenterology, and currently I'm in oncology. So it is the flavors of lessons that you can learn if you keep an open mindset and continue to learn. The third pointer that I wish to share with you is about embracing, not just being bold, but the can-do attitude and having the ability to take risks. In my own personal experience, having that attitude of can get it done helped me actually solve a big business challenge for my company. So in the biotech company that I worked at, we had developed a medicine for multiple sclerosis, which is a severe neurological disorder. So in the clinical trials, we found that this medicine was highly efficacious, and when it was launched, the uptake was very rapid in the community. However, after a few patients experienced taking the medicine, there was a very severe adverse event that developed in patients, which was totally unexpected. So the company was in a predicament because there was such a demand for the medicine. However, it was having this adverse event. So they did the right ethical thing by withdrawing the medicine from the market, but they said that they would reintroduce it after they understand the biology that was contributing to this adverse event. So once the medicine was withdrawn, the company put together a suite of external and internal experts to dive into the basic biology and the mechanism of action of this medicine that was contributing to it. But as Murphy's Law would have it, the solutions were not simple. They realized that you had to invest a lot of time and resources in order to really understand what was contributing to this. So a call came out for somebody from the company to lead the teams, and I was first in line. I threw my hat in the ring and said, nothing to lose. This is an experience that's going to teach me something new. Despite all the skepticism around not there being a roadmap for how to solve the problem or even understand whether it is solvable, I decided it is worth a shot to create options because there were patients waiting for this medicine. That was my motivation. So you have to have these sorts of emotional drivers that helps you really set out, your goals in life and stand out. So I did take leadership, assembled a team, both of internal and external experts. I learned to really engage stakeholders. So these are academicians, neurologists, regulatory bodies who really contributed to developing a whole bunch of ideas around the problems that we were addressing. And almost a year after very intense efforts, there were no holidays taken by any of us on the team. We were working round the clock, motivation being patients are waiting. So we managed to develop a diagnostic test that predicted the risk for patients who were taking this medicine. It was a very unique solution, first of its kind in the industry, and it got approved by all the regulatory bodies. So we launched the diagnostic with a risk algorithm, so patients are fully informed when they take the medicine. They understand that there is a certain amount of risk and the extent of the risk depending on their own personal profiles. So it turned out to be a phenomenal journey. It could have gone the other way. I'm giving you the example of something that succeeded, but there were many failures in between, which I'll not go through. But at the end of the day, it's the tenacity of staying with it and really understanding what you're looking to deliver. And this got me publications in journals like the New England Journal of Medicine, as well as many patents. And the drug is still being marketed. It brings in $2 billion for the company annually. So the moral of the story is you have to look at every opportunity. You have to seize that opportunity despite the risk of failure. And however small that opportunity is, and have the confidence that you can transform it into something meaningful for yourself. Regardless of whether the outcome is successful or not, you're learning along the way. So that is the journey that matters more than anything else. And in closing, the fourth tip that I'm going to share with you is from Albert Schweitzer. He said, success is not the key to happiness. Rather, happiness is the key to success. So if you were to choose a profession, a role that you're going to feel happy doing, feel engaged in doing, then you don't have to work a day in your life. So with that, congratulations again, and I wish you all the very best and make Miami and your families proud. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Subramaniam, thank you for an incredible speech and your wisdom for our graduates. We're extremely proud of you and your accomplishments, and we look forward to hearing more about you in the future. Please accept this small gift of gratitude from the Graduate School. Thank you so much. Okay, graduates, we're getting closer now. You may have noticed our dress when we entered. The academic costume, which makes the commencement procession so colorful, is as old as universities, which is more than 800 years old. It goes back to the days when students were members of the minor clergy and wore monkish gowns and hoods. In those days of unheated classrooms, the hood served a very practical purpose. When the hood was not pulled over the head for warmth, The tippet at the end of the hood served as a convenient pocket to carry items. Kind of envisioning Harry Potter here right now, but such as reading and writing materials, and as legend tells, a snack or a discreet beverage. I hope that none of our graduates took that latter one there. Both the gown and hood indicate the degree to be received or held by the wearer. The gown for a doctoral degree has bell-shaped sleeves. You can check your robes to make sure that these all met it. Is faced down the front with velvet and has 3 velvet crossbars on each sleeve. In the United States, the hood is edged with velvet in a color representing the type of the degree received, and is lined in silk with the colors of the university conferring the degree. For example, my hood is edged with dark blue for the Doctor of Philosophy degree and is lined with blue and orange for my alma mater, the University of Virginia. Miami's doctoral hoods are edged with dark blue for the Doctor of Philosophy or light blue for the Doctor of Education, and are lined, of course, with red and white. In today's ceremony, each graduate will be presented with their doctoral hood as a keepsake, and so that when they wear their gowns and hoods as faculty, they will join the ranks of a procession that displays their degree and Miami University colors with pride. Now I have the pleasure of presenting the candidates for the doctoral degree. Will the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy and for the Doctor of Education degrees please stand as you're able and be recognized? It is my distinct honor to present these candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and Doctor of Education. The doctoral degree is the highest academic degree and culminates a minimum of 4 years, and often much more than that, of study and research beyond the baccalaureate. After the completion of formal coursework, the candidate must pass comprehensive written and oral exams in the field of study, and then write and defend a dissertation that makes an original, scholarly contribution to the discipline. Each of these candidates has completed all of the requirements for his, her, or their degree, and I present these future scholars and leaders in science, education, social science, and humanities to you with pride. Okay, so you guys can sit because you're going to get up in just a minute. So, all attendees, advisors, and doctoral students shall remain seated until the student's name is called and appears on the screen. When the student's name is called, the doctoral student and advisor or advisors should proceed to the platform right in front of me for individual hooding. After hooding, each student may proceed to the designated location to get their picture taken before returning to their seat. So we're going to start with the recipients of the Doctor of Education. Amy Boston, EDD in Educational Leadership, Major Professors Dr. Lucian Schlazewski and Dr. Kathleen Knight Abowitz, Hooding Professor Dr. Lucian Schlazewski. Misty Cook, EDD in Educational Leadership, Major Professors Dr. Lucian Schlazewski and Dr. Joel Moline, Hooding Professor Dr. Lucian Schlazewski. See, we always have that first one. Lisa James, EDD in Educational Leadership, Major Professors Dr. Lucian Schlozewski and Dr. Joel Moline. Candace Lessing, EDD in Educational Leadership, Major Professor Dr. Lucian Schlozewski and Kate Rumanier. Hooding Professor Dr. Lucian Schlozewski. Estella New, EDD in Educational Leadership, Major Professors Dr. Lucian Schlozewski, Dr. Kate Rumanier, Hooding Professor Dr. Lucian Schlozewski. Jill Schneider, EDD in Educational Leadership, Major Professors Dr. Lucian Schlozewski, Dr. Joel Moline. Hooding Professor Dr. Joel Moline. Amy Thompson, EDD in Educational Leadership, Major Professors Dr. Lucian Schlozewski, Dr. Joel Moline, Hooding Professor Dr. Lucian Schlozewski. And now for the recipients of the Doctor of Philosophy. Sarah Lily Adut, PhD in Psychology, Major Professor Dr. Joshua McGee, Hooding Professor Dr. Aaron Luby. Pankuri Agarwal, PhD in Psychology, Major Professor Dr. Vishali Rival. Lydia Allison, PhD in English, Major Professor Dr. Michelle Simmons. Ya Aman Kowal, PhD in Chemistry and Biochemistry. Major Professors Dr. Andrea Kravitz and Dr. Ann Hagerman, Hooding Professor Dr. Andrea Kravitz. Daniel Coleman, PhD in Educational Leadership. Major Professor Dr. Joel Moline. George Daly, PhD in Geology, Major Professor Dr. Elizabeth Whittam. Anthony Ravendi de Silva, PhD in Chemistry and Biochemistry, Major Professor Dr. Richard Page. Govinda Prasad Devkota, PhD in Chemistry and Biochemistry, Major Professor Dr. Scott Hartley. Usha Dakhal, PhD in Gerontology, Major Professor Dr. Sarah McLaughlin. Obid Dodo, PhD in Chemistry and Biochemistry, Major Professor Dr. Dominic Konkolowitz. Savannah Ray Fahum, PhD in Biology, Major Professor Dr. Dawn Blitz. Sabita Jimiri, PhD in Microbiology, Major Professor Dr. Annette Bowman. Nazila Godfrey, PhD in Biology, Major Professor Dr. Teresa Jaskova, Hooding Professor Dr. David Berg. Sarian Jang, PhD in Educational Leadership, Major Professor Dr. Lisa Weems. Aja Marie Johnson, PhD, PhD in Student Affairs and Higher Education, Major Professor Dr. Catherine Cho. Lauren Jones, PhD in Psychology, Major Professor Dr. Elizabeth Keel. Chamithi Kurana Nayaka, PhD in Chemistry and Biochemistry, Major Professor Dr. Richard Page. Lauren Atkins Nose, PhD in Ecology, Evolution, and Environmental Biology, Major Professor Dr. Craig Williamson, Hooding Professor Dr. Michael Vanny. Linford Lamptey, PhD in English, Major Professor Dr. Heidi McKee. Heather Liss Hartke, PhD in English, Major Professor Dr. Heidi McKee. Sean Monroe, PhD in Psychology, Major Professor Dr. Anna Radke. Matthew Moyer, PhD in Educational Leadership, Major Professor Dr. Michael Evans. Faven Agbasaleh Speck, PhD in Psychology, Major Professor Dr. Aaron Luby. Shelby Ortiz, PhD in Psychology, Major Professors Dr. April Smith and Dr. Aaron Luby, Hooding Professor Dr. April Smith. Chithira Pathum Peruma, PhD in Chemistry and Biochemistry, Major Professor Dr. Richard Page. Natalie Price, PhD in Psychology, Major Professor Dr. Elizabeth Keel. Carly Prohaska, PhD in Ecology, Evolution, and Environmental Biology, Major Professor Dr. Matthew Saxon. Sundamini Ranvolagay, PhD in English, Major Professors Dr. Katie Johnson and Dr. Nalin Jayansina, Hooding Professor Dr. Katie Johnson. Sheely May Salim, PhD in Psychology, Major Professor Dr. Terry Messman. Rebecca Stowe, PhD in Chemistry and Biochemistry, Major Professor Dr. Gary Lorgan. Medea Saida, PhD in Educational Leadership, Major Professor Dr. Lisa Weems. Jarrett Tangeman, PhD in Cell, Molecular, and Structural Biology, Major Professor Dr. Katia Del Rio Sanas. Ray Chow Shea, PhD in Chemistry and Biochemistry, Major Professor Dr. Neil Danielson. Hushwa Yu, PhD in Gerontology, Major Professor Dr. Kate De Medeiros, Hooding Professor Dr. Catherine Abbott. Yu Zhang, PhD in Educational Leadership, Major Professor Dr. Amity Nultemeyer.
Okay, are you ready, graduates? It's that time. Please stand if you're able. This will mark the end of a job well done and to the start of a new beginning. Dean Crowder, I am pleased to receive these candidates, and by virtue of the authority vested in me by the state of Ohio, with the approval of the faculty and board of trustees of Miami University, I hereby confer the doctorate degree upon all those who have successfully completed the requirements. Upon all those members of the class who have been unable to attend the ceremony today, the appropriate degree is hereby conferred in absentia. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing our newest and freshest doctoral graduates of Miami University. Let's give a big round of applause. Congratulations, you may be seated.
Okay, I saw you guys eyeing the Miami cookies outside before we came in. Thanks for refraining before the ceremony. But this does conclude the 2023 doctoral hooding and graduation ceremony. I want to thank the Graduate School and Miami staff for organizing and producing this ceremony. I want to congratulate the faculty mentors and family members who have supported these graduates in their careers. I especially want to congratulate the graduates for their hard work and perseverance. Yeah, you guys did this when COVID was around, and that makes it even more remarkable. In the last 3 years, your accomplishments deserve even greater respect for that reason. As the provost said, fewer than 2% of all Americans earn the doctoral degree, so each of you is now a member of an honored community. Each of you has the responsibility to contribute to the betterment of humankind, as well as to the natural environment from Oxford, Ohio, to throughout the world. You're the next generation of scholars and leaders in science, education, social science, and humanities. We need your talents, work ethic, and intelligence to tackle the many challenges of our world. We look forward to hearing and reading about the great things that you will do. One thing that I used to do when I still had small kids is we read books every night. I fell asleep through a lot of them, I suspect. But one of my favorite was a Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And so I want to conclude these last comments, but just by saying, so be your name Bucksbaum or Bixby or Bray or Mordecai Alley Van Allen O'Shea. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Best wishes to all of you. Love and honor. Okay, and one last set of instructions. Please remain seated for the Miami University Alma Mater song. After the Alma Mater, we will proceed with the processional. The platform party will recess first, followed by faculty advisors. Each graduate and group of attendees will process one group at a time, beginning with the back rows. Please remain seated until it is your time to recess. And now for the Alma Mater.